Alright guys, sorry once again that I couldn't make the video yesterday. Somehow it got broken, so I didn't have time to finish the new one. But today I will make the full-time update on Bitcoin, and I will tell basically why I think the current situation in the market is more bullish than bearish. I don't think that we'll go below $9,000. Moreover, I think that we even probably stay above $11,000, and I'll show you my rationale behind it. And also in the end of the video we will look at my trades on Bitmex, which were pretty much awful at some point, but now they're much better. Alright, so if you will actually look at the daily time frame, then what you would see is that we have a quite of the rally of 7 green days, with the last one having almost $1,000 range from $11,000 to $12,000, and at this point we had some increase in the volume. And when we almost touched $11,900, I posted on Telegram saying that, guys, it's almost inevitable that would have a correction, that it's very likely that we'll make a dip from that point. And moreover, if we look at let's say 4 hours time frame, then at this area I actually even started to try short Bitcoin at something like $11,700. Although, of course, as I told you before, and also I posted this on Telegram, I wanted to enter at $9,500. I expected the pullback to this level from $9,700. It didn't happen, and the same with $10,200. So I couldn't catch the pullback because they were very small. So finally, at this point, I realized that it probably will be a bigger pullback because of many reasons, including the strong resistance over here. And as soon as we start to see the volume, and the volume was at around the same area as the resistance was, this was the signal that probably a lot of the players out there are starting to close their positions. Of course, this was the closing the shorts. A lot of them were liquidated, but at this point already many people start to close. So one would expect that the selling pressure from this level would lead us to a more or less significant correction, and we had it actually. The point is that before this correction we had this manipulative move to the upside, which actually ruined all my shorts, and just only after that we had this correction that I expected. But now it's over. It actually touched this trend line perfectly, here as well here. The more it touches, the more likely it will be broken at some point. So actually I would expect it to be broken to the downside more likely than this trend line. Although of course it's really hard to predict. And we also continue to see an increase in the volume. So technically, such a picture would mean that we may expect the decrease in the price. However, there are other reasons why I think that this will not happen. So first of all, let me show you this chart. You see the previous rally, the one rally before that, and the current one. Every rally which we had so far was almost without pullbacks, and a very little tiny pullback in the middle of each rally we had, but pretty similar we observe right now. The difference is that the correction which we have is much longer and much deeper, so you might expect that it would be a little bit twisted comparing to the previous ones. And also you need to overcome the previous local high, because here it was pretty low, here it was even lower, but because the correction here was much deeper, then you'd need to make much higher, much stronger move to the upside to reach the new local high. So looking even only on the chart pattern, you would see that there is nothing new happening, and we are basically repeating over and over again the same picture. Moreover, if you look at the volume distribution, then it's also all the same during the previous corrections and rises. So you see decrease, a bump at the correction, and a little bit more decrease, and increase in the volume at the new rise. Pretty much the same here. Decrease, bump, decrease, rise. Decrease, bump here, decrease, I would expect it to be a decrease, and rise at the new leg to the upside. So basically nothing new under the sun. Another thing here is our multiplicative moving averages. You remember we were looking at this moving average at the previous correction. It was resistance here. It became a support in the current correction. Actually, as soon as the price moved above this moving average, had a pullback tested from the top, and had another 50% of the total rise. But over here we actually test another moving average, which is 350 days moving average multiplied by 2. And that was a perfect test. We had a pullback after that, and now we are trying to test it again. The more we will test it, the more likely it will be broken. So I would suggest to pay attention to this one. Another thing is Bollinger Bands. So you remember, as soon as we broke the Bollinger Bands from the bottom, I said that, guys, it's a very nice, strong buying signal. And indeed, after that, we moved from $10,000 to almost $12,000. But actually, again, as soon as this correction was much longer and deeper, I expected the pullback without such a rally. I expected to test the baseline at least once and go something like $10,200, something like that. It didn't happen. Instead of that, price went directly to the upper band over here. And if you remember the rule 8 of the Bollinger Bands trading, you would know that the closing of the candle above the upper band means that the current trend is established and we may expect the continuation of the trend. Of course, there will be some corrections, moreover they are needed, but pretty much the same as we had in the previous rise, you see over here, and the previous rise as well. We would probably get more and more breakouts above the upper band, and the rise will just continue. Another point which I was going to tell you is about stochastic oscillator. You see, on the daily time frame, it actually shows the bearish crossover here, but indeed it was a bearish crossover as well in the previous rise and before, and instead of going lower, it actually stayed at the same area for a while, letting price going higher and higher and higher. So I would expect the same here. And the thing which is more interesting to me right now is, if you will zoom out, then the stochastic oscillator at a weekly time frame, usually quite reliable in terms of the crossovers, here had a crossover to the bullish direction. And instead of going much lower to the oversold territory, it actually repeats to the similar pattern which we had in 16th and 17th years, when it stayed somewhere around the upper part of this purple area, and it over and over again returns back to the level of something like 90 and so on. And at that point we had more and more corrections over and over again. So this is pretty much the same right now. So you may expect the continuation of the stochastic oscillator going up, and that would pretty much because of the price going up as well. Now, about the breakout which we had, that false breakout to the upside. Actually, that was a very strong signal, and the volume was there as well. You remember we were drawing this pitchfork from the very top of the previous rise to the local low, next following rise. Very nice pitchfork with all the Fibonacci retracement levels played out nearly ideally. But at that point, and for example right here, you remember I said if we will break this level and hold above that, we may go actually to the top of this channel. And this is exactly what happened with this $1,000 candle. We moved there and we stopped at the very edge of this pitchfork, and that was the pivotal point. So either we will return lower to go sideways within this area, or we will go above the pitchfork, which would mean that Bitcoin is actually breaking the current correction and goes to the new highs. It happened, but it was a fake breakout, unfortunately. So we returned back, but now we are trying to stay above this level once again. This is another bullish thing to me. Now, here is the thing which I was going to show you finally. This is the chart with two channels, ascending channel, like a global one from $4,000, and descending channel. Ascending channel had many reactions with the price from the top, from the bottom, in many points. And again, with that fake breakout, we went above this ascending channel, and right now we are still below that. Descending channel is also kind of self-explanatory. In addition to those two channels, we had a very ideal situation with the correction which we had. You see this dashed black line, which was the previous resistance at the high at $9,100. It became a support during this correction. It is an ideal situation when we had such a flipping from resistance to support in more or less global time scale. And this is another reason why I think that we will probably not have a decrease in the price below this level. So right now these two channels are competing with each other, and I think that Bitcoin price still has the room to grow or fall within this triangle, pretty much fall from that point, of course. And I guess that will take the chance to continue remaining with this channel, maybe something like this, maybe even until the very apex of this triangle, which is still above $10,000, almost $11,000. But actually my guts tell me that the breakout will be earlier, maybe even something like this. Not sure if we'll go above the channel, probably it's too early for that, but still, at least this will mean the transition from the corrective move to the new move to the upside. And speaking about these channels, you see actually Bitcoin has a history of acting like that. You remember maybe we were drawing similar channels but in a very long time scale, starting from the previous accumulation period in 2016 and 15th and 17th, drawing the additional channels from the areas of the local highs and corrections after that. So you can see that at the point of the intersection between these two channels, we had a sort of the decision time for Bitcoin price, and it made its decision with a strong green candle, finally initiating a new bull market. After that, we had the reaction of the price with this part of the channel from the top. Actually, it did pull back from the top of this channel. Almost ideally, we nearly touched it once again from this point, and what I would personally expect to see is that we will try to break the upper part of this channel once again as soon as we already touched it. I would expect probably that we'll actually break it, maybe have a correction within this channel, maybe we'll go to test the upper part here, or maybe have a small pullback, but in any case, I would pay attention very much to this line and how price will react to that. And if we'll go the same pace, it would be something like $15,000. This is like the global target for the next growth. And finally, we also are looking at the all-time scale support line, which was from 2012 and 2016, 17th, and we actually broke it to the downside from $6,000, which was a very nice trap, because by this support we should go something like this, slowly, but pretty much the same way which we moved to this point right now. We would have to be at the same area if we will not have this decrease in price. But instead, we have a 50% drop from that point, and only after that we are returning to the mean value, if you will. And again, it's very close to the channel line which I showed in the previous chart, and now we have a chance to test it over again. It actually was tested already, but we couldn't hold above that, so I would expect that the new test would lead us to maybe a breakout above it again, something like $14,500, $15,000. It's almost intersection of this global support / resistance within one of those channels, so I would really pay attention to that as well. Not to mention that we have our multiplicative moving averages, and the next one is around $18,000. So I don't think that will go that far, especially that the touch of the price with this moving average would theoretically point out the next all-time high. So I think that we'll continue to move up with this moving average also moving up. Maybe the speed of this moving would be a little bit slower, but in any case, if the price will somehow lead to test it, I think that would be a very strong resistance. So this is another level which I would pay attention to. Another thing which you probably know, and that was also mentioned for the previous run of Bitcoin by Adamant Capital Research, that we actually have a correlation between the price of Bitcoin and the rise in this price and the deflation or devaluation of Chinese yuan with respect to dollar, because it is speculated that Chinese people are worrying that their currency, national currency, will become cheaper and will lose its value. So they try to hedge themselves with different assets, including Bitcoin. So you can see the nice match of the rally of Bitcoin and decrease in value of Chinese yuan over here, and the same is happening right now. Moreover, it actually broke the key level of 7 recently and stays above there. So more and more people are kind of trying to find a safe haven. Moreover, in China, it is noticed that in their search engine Baidu, people are starting to search more for things like Bitcoin or buy Bitcoin. So it's indeed kind of new wave of the retailer buyers from China. And the same thing is pretty much with gold. So gold and Bitcoin are very similar in terms of being a hedge to the other assets, and also their inflationary/deflationary model is very similar. So you would expect that they will act at some point similarly, and we indeed observe very much the same thing. So the candlesticks chart here is gold, it is going up, it also broke a very important resistance area, and Bitcoin is seemingly following it. A little bit with a delay, we're still not making a new high, but definitely on the way to that area. Okay, now let's probably look at my Bitmex position. So guys, as I already told you, I was trying to open short positions at this area, and of course this move made them invalid apparently. And since this move was the breakout from that channel, from that pitchfork, I decided that I will not stay any longer outside of the market because of all those reasons which I just pointed out. So I actually bought it pretty much at the high of this level, something like $12,230, and it appeared to be a false breakout. I didn't put a stop here because I expected to have actually false breakouts to the downside instead, but it appeared to be such a breakout in fact, because we are now going higher and higher. So I'm slightly in the loss right now for this position, but I think it will eventually play out. So what I had to do is I had to add some margin to decrease the liquidation price, and now it is like $8,700, pretty much low, so I wouldn't be that worried about the liquidation. If it will go actually to something like $10,000, maybe below that, then I would probably have to add a little bit more to feel even safer, but I'm not planning to close this position. I don't think that it is reasonable, and I don't believe that the price will go that low. So leverage is cross, unfortunately in a loss right now, but this is how the market usually acts. In addition to that, I have another position. I tried to open it at $11,200, but price didn't go there, very little, so I couldn't get this entry, and instead of that I managed to enter at this point at $11,511 with a pretty short liquidation price as well, but the position also is not that big. I played a little bit up and down, so in general basically now I have a little bit of the profit on that position. In total they are both actually almost are breaking even, so it's not that of a bad deal, especially considering the fact that I'm expecting the continuation of the growth. If the price will go lower and probably approaching the entry price of this position, maybe a little bit lower, I will set a stop loss, because still I expect it may go to something like $11,000 or a little bit below that, so I would probably try to catch it lower at that point. But again, everything I will cover on Telegram, and don't forget that everything which I say is my personal opinion, not a financial advice. So don't follow my trades, guys. They may be not profitable, for example like this one, especially if you have a little bit different conditions and you need your money and so on and so forth. With that said, I think that is it for today. I hope that was useful. Thank you for watching.